Here we are live tonight with one of the top exponents of Kanjira drum, a percussion instrument from South India, Kanjira Guruprasanna, that I helpful thank for accepting my invitation. And welcome everyone. This is the fifth streaming interview about Rhythm, perspectives on Rhythm. And this is done in collaboration between Konnakkol Italia and Fondazione Luigi Tronci. And today we will talk about this special instrument, which is one of the most important percussion instruments of the classical music of South India. And we will talk about this with Vidwan Guruprasanna, which I shortly introduce, and he's one of the top exponents and disciple of Vidwan Shri Anur Anantakrishna Sharma and Vidwan Vyasa Vittala, directly disciple of Vidwan Hari Shankar, which is one of the most important legends of Kanjira in India. And Vidwan Guruprasanna has been performing all around India and across the globe since he was a child, we can say. And he's now devoted to, always pursuing the study of of rhythm and infinite path. And also he has a foundation, Samatva Foundation, which aims to spread the knowledge of Carnatic music for whoever is interested in. There is a series we will start next week. We'll talk about that after. And so we will talk about today this special drum, which is Kanjira. It's a small frame drum. So I will start maybe asking Guruprasanna if you could please introduce to us this instrument. What is its role in music and how you play it in a context of a concert?
Sure, Omar. Thanks a lot for this introduction, and thanks a lot for inviting me here. I would like to welcome all of them, all the audience all over the globe. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are from. So, talking about the instrument, Kanjira, has a lot of history. In the documented references we find, it dates back to 180, where the frame drum was used in all over the world in different shapes and sizes, right? So it basically belongs to a category of percussion instruments, which is categorized into membranophones, which basically is a thin layer stretched over a particular wooden frame, kind of a thing. So a single-handed frame drum, which is there all over the world in different forms, in different shapes and sizes. And this particular instrument, Kanjira, in this particular shape and size and the texture, was given to us by one of the Adi Guru of Carnatic classical music called Mahavidwan Sri Mampundya Pillai. So this is basically his innovation of what we see today as in Kanjira. It is his contribution to the field of music. So when it comes to a Carnatic music, a proper Carnatic music concert, where this is used along with the percussion, the king of percussions, we can say, which is the mridangam. This is used along with it, and there are a lot of dynamics that happen on the stage, where how to play this, where to play, and how to embellish a particular composition using this, or the improvisation part. Carnatic classical music is standing on a very strong base of improvisation, right? So when it comes to playing in concerts, it plays a huge role where when gelling with the vocal or the flute or the veena and the violin, and when it comes together with the mridangam, so kind of creates a magic on stage.
Yeah. And can you please show us something on the instrument? Some maybe a composition, traditional composition.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'll play one composition which is probably composed more than a century back, I would say. This is done by the Vidwan Tanjavur Mahavaidyanath Iyer, and was popularized by legendary Mridangam artist Dr. T.K. Murthy sir. So before playing on the instrument, I'll probably recite and show, since it is Konnakkol Italia. I think it's fair enough to start with Konnakkol, and just to make sure how the language is there in this and how the construction has happened in this composition. So here it goes. I'll use the Adi Tala. Dim, tak, dim, dim, kita tak, dim, ta, dim, tak, dim, na, dim, dim, tak, dim, ta, dim, tak, kita tak, dim, ta, dim, ta, tari kita tak, dim, tari kita tak, dim, ta, dim, tak, dim, ta, dim, tak, kita tak, dim, ta, tari kita tak, dim, tari kita tak, dim, ta, dim, tak, dim, ta, tari kita tak, dim, tari kita tak, tak, kita tak, tak, dim, ta, dim, tak, dim, ta, dim, tak, dim. Takadim, takita, ta, tarikata, takadina, tarikata, takata, takatadim, tadim, tadim, ta, tarikata, takadina, tarikata, takata, takatadim, tadim, tadim, ta, tarikata, takadina, tarikata, takatadim, tadim, tadim, tatakita, takatakadim, tadim, tadim, tatakita, takatakadim, tadim, tadim, takatakadim, tadim, tadim, takatakadim, tadim, tadim, dim, tadim, dim, tata. So this is one of the very fine compositions which was done more than a century, I would say. And this has such a great texture and the construct available in it. And it's been something amazing to know that. So here it goes.
Super. Yeah, very, very beautiful. How this you talked about composition. This is also an interesting topic. Before going into other details, maybe it's interesting to talk about this concept of composition, which is rather different from what we think here in the West when we think of a composition as a score. Written parts, but this is a different tradition. Also, what do you mean when you say this is a composition, a traditional composition?
Yeah, so this is a rhythmical composition. So the melodic composition is something definitely has a score to it, associated in a raga or in a particular scale, and which will be composed by, predominantly the trinities, and also there are after post-trinity compositions which are there. But these are some of the rhythmical compositions which are there, especially made for percussion and percussive art, right? So this is one such composition, of course, and we have a lot of composition like this, and which are very, very special. in nature, and it follows the structure, which are the language which is associated with it. Like, for example, ta tarikita taka dinadigu tarikita taka is the initial phrase which is associated, and tatak kita taka 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 tadim tadim tadim, which is the language, and how it actually forms that 20 letters, whatever we see. I mean, we don't need to understand that it is 20 letters, but when we hear to that, it sounds wow, kind of a thing, right? So that is a rhythmical composition which gives the energy to what we are playing, and it sets the mood of the concert, the mood of the performance, right? So these are called as rhythmical compositions for us.
Yeah,
and maybe it can be there in West with respect to some kind of a grooves kind of a thing, which is played in drum. We also have grooves which are called nades, and these are some things which we call it as sollukatus, or which are kind of phrases coming together and forming a bigger structure, right? So this is one such composition wherein multiple sollukatus come and make a composition.
Yeah, so the fact is that when you learn, for example, something like this, or obviously you start from something much easier, but I mean, when you start learning, for example, Kanjira, what you learn first is the instrument itself, or the syllables, the solcatus, the composition, the spoken composition.
First and foremost thing, in learning any instrument, we need to understand the basics of it, right? So it goes without saying. I mean, it could be anything, right? So we first try to understand what are the different sounds which are available in this, right? So, and then how do we term these sounds? How do we recognize these sounds? There has to be some way to recognize this, right? So that is where we associate the language for it. So rhythm has its own language, right? So like we are talking in English now, and many other languages world over, rhythm has one language, and predominantly it is Konnakkol, right? So in multiple forms it is there. In Hindustani classical music also we have tabla bowls and other the way we talk about it and communicate the language. And in Carnatic music also it is there. I'm sure in West also we have some kind of mnemonics which is associated with what we play, right? So we definitely start with the sounds and start associating each sound with a particular syllable or a language, or how do we recognize that kind of a thing? Then we start constructing the words to it, and then start constructing phrases, then sentences, and then kind of come up with essays, kind of a thing. This is as much similar to learning any language like English. So we start with alphabet, then talk about the word, and talk about a phrase, and then go with the context, what phrase is used with what context, and then build sentences to it, understand the meaning associated with that sentence, and then try to form paragraph, and then the essays to it. This is absolutely much similar to that.
Yeah, very clear. And so, in fact, this language is not specific to the Kanjira instrument, no?
There are a few things which are specific to Kanjira, but the way it is recited is in Konnakkol itself. It is in Konnakkol. So, but some of the phrases are, I wouldn't say it is only for Kanjira, but I can say that it sounds very well or very good when we play in Kanjira.
Yeah. And this is also the way you can communicate with other musicians. You use this language.
Yeah. Absolutely, yes. So when we are talking to other musicians across, I mean, it's not just the percussion, I would say, with the melodic also, and with the Western musicians also, we follow the tala system. The system gives us how to frame a particular laya within a structure, and that is a tala for us. There is a meter associated, and we use the tala structure to communicate, okay, there are 8 beats, and how 8 beats are divided, and what do we put into 8 beats to make whatever composition we are doing, kind of a thing. And that makes it much easier for others to comprehend and contemplate on that.
Yeah. Okay, so what you do, in fact, when you start studying Kanjira, is that before you have to internalize the structure, as you said, the words, the alphabet, the words, and then the sentences, and only after you put your hands on the instrument, is it?
No, it's no. It goes hand in hand. So we'll not learn everything in Konnakkol and then go to an instrument study, right? So it goes hand in hand. So like in melodics, right? So when we learn the 7 notes, right? Sari, Gama, Pada, Ni. And from there, we start with the basic lessons and the different verses. Like that, in rhythm also, in percussion also, we have something similar to that. There are basic lessons, basic exercises, and we learn along with the ta, di, tum, nam kind of a thing. We learn different words, different words coming together, and how to practice that. So the system actually gives a wealth of information in this, and as a student, one goes through that phase of learning, internalizing the structure, and also how to play on the instrument. So when I start learning Kanjira, I do that. So it goes hand in hand. It's not like you learn one thing and you start playing after some years of time, kind of a thing. No.
Yeah.
And there will be a lot of disconnect because you will be telling very clear and you will not be able to play. So that will kind of lead to a lot of frustration, I would say.
Yeah. And so you were talking about also other, for example, melodic instrument. And so this is a language which is in a way also common to melodic instruments.
From a percussion aspect, if they want to understand a few aspects of what is happening from percussion, they will try to understand. So some of my co-musicians who are melodic artists, they will try to understand, okay, what is the structure in what I'm trying to play or trying to tell them. And so that way they will follow the same structure. But if they want to play the same thing in a melodic while singing or playing a melodic instrument, they will have to transcribe this into the swaras, which are the 7 notes, and within that particular scale, and they will have to do some things on that. So of course, they cannot play taditomnam in melodic, right? So it has to be transcribed.
Yeah. Relative to this, it would be interesting maybe to talk about what is the interaction that you can have with the melodic instrument, for example, in accompanying a concert, or if you accompany a song, a violin, a singer. What is the role of Kanjira in this? How do you relate with the swaras, like you said, with the structure of the song?
Yeah. So one of the most important thing is in the system of Carnatic music, we get to know a lot of compositions, right? So as I told, in a concert format, we need to be working together. We need to be performing together with the other musicians in cohesion, right? So for that, as a Kanjira artist, I need to know the compositions as such, right? So may not be exactly the compositions, at least the structure of the compositions I have to be aware of. So there are some there are a lot of compositions, and it is, I would say, artists' capacity to understand, remember those many compositions, right? So from a melodic perspective, there is something called varnam. There are multiple kritis or compositions. There are tilanas, there are tirpugals, there are javlis, vachanas, there are devarnamas, right? So there are, and each of these categories have a list of compositions in it. And what we are fed as part of our learning process, what happens is, along with learning how to play, what to play, kind of a thing, we are also fed with a lot of listening. So the system has a lot of inherent listening associated with it, where we listen to concerts. We try to understand, okay, what the exterior masters are doing in the concerts. And we try to understand what is happening on the stage, the dynamics associated with it. So it goes, I mean, it is a constant journey of learning, understanding, trying to reciprocate when we, when we get an opportunity to perform on the stage. Like that, it is a kind of a cycle which keeps repeating itself, right? So by virtue of it, we listen to a lot of concerts. There are a lot of recordings available for past masters. So we listen to that and try to understand, okay, when a similar composition or the same composition is played, we know we are familiar with this composition, kind of a thing. Then we try to embellish the composition with whatever we have heard, and that is where the improvisation comes into play, where the creative part of an artist comes into play, and that starts playing a part in the concert, right? So understanding of the compositions, understanding the schools from where these artists are coming from is extremely critical as a Kanjira artist. And one more additional thing I would go and say is, as a Kanjira artist, since we will be performing predominantly with a Mridangam artist on a concert platform, it is very important to also know which school of thought the Mridangam artist is coming in from, because we need to be gelling in together with them. Otherwise, it will go in two different directions. And from an audience perspective, how it is heard will be really not so good. So for that fact, I would say in a concert format, as a Kanjira artist, one needs to understand the school of Mridangam artist is coming from and try to align to that. So that is one, I would say, challenge and a great opportunity to assimilate a lot of different schools of thoughts as a Kanjira artist.
Yeah, because what looks I mean crazy when we look or we hear a concert of Carnatic music is just what you said. How can you remember all these structures, and just maybe from the first three notes of the violin you understand what he's going to do after, and you start immediately improvising with him. This is super. Yeah.
So one of the very, very important elements again in Carnatic music, as many of you would have seen, is anticipation, right? So we will not be knowing. In fact, the other musicians will also not know what is going to happen. And we are in a phase where all of us are having plain brain. I mean, there is nothing in the mind which is going, and we take it as it comes, as it happens, right? So, and the magic happens when one musician and the other musician is able to anticipate the thought process which is happening, and that is something creates kind of a magic on stage for us also as musicians, and that is extremely special.
Yeah, but this goes with an extreme knowledge of the repertoire, of the compositions, yes. Of the methods also of improvisation, of variation, no? So before going on stage, there is an enormous work of practice and study and listening also.
Absolutely. So I mean, for me personally, I would say to learn, when I was learning the compositions and other things, I mean, there was one cassette, I still remember that the great Bombay sisters had sung one, the entire Varnas structure in a cassette, and was released. And I don't know how many times I have listened to assimilate that structures of a varna, how to accompany that, how to play for it, where to embellish, what if I play like this, what if I play like this, kind of thing. There's a lot of internal communication that happens, and I mean, it's extremely difficult to explain in words, but there's a lot of, as you rightly told, there's a lot of practice, there's a lot of thought process, and assimilation of knowledge that happens before anybody gets onto the stage. And it's an iterative process, I would say, because you cannot say I will assimilate everything and then come to stage, and that is not possible. So it has to have kind of a cycle and a continuous learning, and that is one thing which keeps happening. And I would say in any field, like continuous learning is something extremely critical and important.
Maybe it's what you said, that the relationship with other musicians is always an extremely difficult, because everyone has its own sense of inner tempo of laya, no? And so when you go on stage, when you perform together, maybe for the first time even, you have to make this go together, and this is one very difficult thing. So this sense of laya to go together, it's very difficult, I think.
I would term it as not difficult. I would term it as interesting, because I mean, if we go with the mindset that it is difficult, then probably we will not be able to perform that day. If it is interesting, I'm going to learn something, right? So that is the mindset which probably gives us an opportunity to be a student and still go on stage and try to give your best as much as possible and get takeaways from the concert platform, and of course keep working on it. As I told, it's a continuous iterative process.
How is aesthetics forming improvisation, the improvisation process when you are on stage? Is there some something that you think you follow, maybe because it's the structure of what you performed before, or just you go there and you play what comes to your mind?
It's a great question, Umar. It's the answer to it is, how do we explain improvisation? Is right. So there are improvisations that can happen in many parts in a concert, right? So it could be while accompanying for a kriti, or while accompanying for there is a structure called nerval. There is a phase called nerval, which wherein a vocal or a melodic artist runs over and over again the same line in different ways and combinations and permutations to it, right? So that happens, and also it can happen while doing the swara phases, right? So exchanges of swaras, and also it happens in solo exchanges, right? So with percussions, right? So there are multiple places where some of these improvisation can happen. I would say as a beginner, if somebody has to improvise, I would say it is not possible. To start with, as a beginner, it is not possible. There has to be, can you imagine something that you have not heard, or something which you have not seen? I would say it is quite impossible for I would say normal human beings, right? So normal mortals like me. It is not possible to improvise on stage as a beginner. For that, it has to be understood, it has to be rehearsed, it has to be assimilated, right? So some things have to be rehearsed, practiced, and we should try to understand and educate ourselves what to play where, how to play what, right? So, and we also should start to asking ourselves some questions like, why is this coming in this place? What is exactly happening here? If, like, for example, somebody plays a structure, a rhythmical structure, like if somebody plays that, and if somebody has to anticipate and play immediately along with them, there is an information that has to be fed to the brain and our nervous system that, okay, this can be played. This is one of the alternatives that can be played for that particular space, right? So we need to understand that. And there can be hundreds and thousands of possibilities to play what anybody is playing there. And how much one can assimilate, how much one can understand, that is, again, is the part of it. And how to add that is the creativity of the artist which comes in place. So I'm not sure if I answered your exact question of how do you improvise, but to start with, as a beginner, one will not be able to improvise. He or she will be playing whatever they have learned, whatever they have heard, whatever they have assimilated. And over a period of time, they will also start trying out a few things on stage. It might click, it might not click, but the trial is constant.
Yeah, it makes me think to what you said before about the language that you start learning from the alphabet, and it seems to me like this is similar to what you just said, in
Correct.
the sense that
Correct.
before you have to understand the system and to get a bit of confidence with the structures, and then
Correct.
once you understand how it works, maybe you can start to put together the phrases in a different way. Is it?
Absolutely, yes. So it is much similar to some of the Western compositions. If you take jazz compositions, which is set to, let's say, 17 and a half beats. I'm just taking one random example, right? So the drummer there exactly knows the composition, the structure of the composition, right? So he or she will be playing the groove for that, right? So somebody like me, if I come to that stage and try to understand, can I do improvisation there immediately? Possibly not. I'll have to understand. I'll have to get to know. Okay, I have to hear at least 4 or 5 times to understand, okay, where are these things coming in? What are these structures which are getting in? I obviously cannot understand the entire composition immediately, right? So that has to be studied. And there, I will get to know, okay, these are some spaces, these are the place where I can try to improvise. That is what is that space, which is very important for me, where I say, okay, can I bring in some creativity into it?
Yeah,
so,
because the fact is that it's not just about the fact that I mean, one could say, I can improvise because it's free, but the fact is not just how many notes maybe you can put in a space, but how you have to put them. There is an aesthetics, what you said before. Now you have to respect some some principles of form, what you played before, maybe what the instruments played before you. So
so I would say there are 3 golden circles for anything, right? So I use this as an example everywhere. Context of why it is being done, right? So we need to understand the why part of it. Why are we doing this? Why do we need to improvise here? Yes, as you rightly told, the system allows you to improvise. Should you improvise? Why is very important. And the next golden circle is what. What is that you are trying to do? And it's important to know in relationship with why, what has to be extremely cohesive. More importantly, it's a performing art. The third one is, how are you going to do that, right? So why, what, and how are extremely critical for I would say anything, and music definitely in particular.
That's not a case that we call this is an art. I mean, it's not just that you go there on stage and you perform because there is a search.
I mean, 100 times if I say, okay, I'm going to go and play this from home, I'm going to go and play this, absolutely 100 times I've come back playing different thing on the stage on that day.
I see.
So that's the fact.
And this is very nice, because this is the the moment when you play that creates also the music. You can start, you can try to plan it before, but in fact you are in that moment, music is there and stop.
And another very important point is, what do you get influenced with? That also plays a lot of factor in a musician's creativity and a thought process, right? So what do you get influenced with, right? So it's very important. That is what allows you to listen to that particular genre or that particular type of music, right? So it's the taste, I would say. So what do you get influenced with, and that will invariably start showing up in your performances as well.
And regarding this, you performed with also in many Western contexts, for example in Europe, and you came in contact with many Western musicians. So did you find maybe some differences in approach to the rhythmic material from
Of course.
from your perspective?
Yeah, of course, definitely. I've had great opportunity to perform for contemporary music and also jazz, like collaborating with jazz musicians. One thing is, for contemporary music, there is some set patterns with it. And coming from a Carnatic background, there is a lot of logic and there is a lot of theory associated with what we are learning, how we are learning, and how we are presenting things. That, and every form of music has that their own logic, right? So their own interpretations of what it is, kind of a thing. First and foremost, for me, what I felt is, I need to understand and respect that school of thought, that genre of music, right? So for me to even comprehend what is happening there, right? So it can be completely different. It has to be understood, internalized, and then performed, right? So some of those contemporary music has a lot of script writing, a lot of transcribing, a lot of things into my own language so that I can perform exactly, I can sound what the composer is looking at, kind of a thing. For that, I need to do that work, and there is a lot of work involved in it, and there is a lot of rehearsals which are needed to it, because we are locking in together. And there are places where I come, the other musician comes, may not be in tandem, but it could be sparse, but we need to sound musical to the audience, right? So that part we definitely need to understand in a contemporary setup. While it comes to jazz, it's like a free form, right? So from a Carnatic point of view, Carnatic system point of view, I would say there is a lot of similarities. There is a lot of improvisation also that happens in jazz, and we know those sections. There are some compositions like in Carnatic, and there are improvisation sections where we know where our role can be enhanced and what we can do, kind of a thing. So that part is kind of common from Carnatic standpoint of view, where it's interesting. I would say respecting different genres and understanding the other system is very important as a professional musician, and that gives us a lot of learning and takeaways.
This makes me think about even, for example, the fact that me as a Western musician, now I'm talking to you. No, we belong to two different musical traditions, and maybe the idea is just that we, as you just said, we have to try to understand each other, and the fact of maybe using some elements in different contexts. I think, but I ask your opinion, that should before go and pass through at least a knowledge of the tradition that we are going to use. Otherwise, we are using something that we don't know, in maybe in a misleading way. Correct. Or maybe in an we can even be offensive.
So much similar to how we are conversing, right? So we are conversing in a common language here, right? So that is English. right? So if you speak in Italian and I speak in my mother tongue, which is Kannada, we will not understand. Maybe we are talking the same thing as we are talking in English, but we will not be understanding each other, right? So there has to be some common language where we can come together and start conversing, right? So for that, I think both have to tread some paths to understand each other and say how to collaborate. Why do we want to collaborate? Because we want to, right? So that is our desire. That is why we are answering that why. And then what are we trying to do? We are trying to arrive at a common language to converse. And then how are we doing? Yeah, we try to understand what is the context of this language. How do we use this sentence or phrase? Like that. Rhythmically also the same thing happen, or musically, I would say in general. Musically also the same thing happens. We have to define why, what are we trying to do, and how are we going to communicate. So if you try to answer these things, I think I would say it's the same thing everywhere.
Yeah.
A lot of philosophy, but the fact.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe to conclude our fabulous conversation, can I ask you maybe to show on maybe a short composition how you can develop an improvisation on the material?
Okay. So
yeah, if you want on Konnakkol before and on Kanjira, as you
Okay, sure. I'll probably take a different tala for this. I would probably take a Mr. Chapo, which is like 7 letters per beat kind of a thing. Just as an example, right? So, and probably take some phrase, right, to start with. Okay, you are learning Konnakkol, right? So you tell me a phrase, so that I can start developing a structure out of it.
Yeah, just a simple groove in Mr. Chapo that I love. Yeah. Tadim, tadim, takadim, tadim, tarkitadim, tadim, takadim, takitata. And yeah.
Super. Okay, we'll use this. So basically, it is all 7 sevens in this, right?
Yeah.
Tadim, tadim, takadim, tadim, 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 takadim, takitata, tadim, takadim, tadim, ta, takita, takadim, takitata, dim, tadim, 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 takadina, takitata. Takita takadina takita takadina takita dim tadim takadina takita takadina takita dim tadim takadim tadim takadina takita takita takadina takita dina takita takadina 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 takita takada dina takita takadina takita tadim tadim takadim tadim takadim tadim dina takita tadim tadim takadim tadim takadim tadim takadina takita taditang tadikana taditang tadikana kadim Titang tadikana taditang tadikana kadim tadim takadim takadim tadikana 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 tadim takadim takadim tadikana 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 tadim takadim takadim takita takita. So this is, of course, the end composition. Whatever I told is a standard composition, but we should know how to trade off from what are you trying to do, kind of a thing. So I tried using the same structure, telling it in the first speed, like 1 letter per beat, then 2 letters per beat. Then I went into triplets, then into 4 letters per beat, kind of a thing. So you can do n number of things revolving this. It just needs, what do we want to do? Kind of a thing. We can just play a small thing around that and maybe show that.
Yeah, super. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Umar.
Yeah, this was great. So I think, yeah, we are to our end. We have to, yeah, I want to thank again Vidwan Guruprasanna for accepting my invitation. This was very interesting. We could go on for days talking and about this thing and listening to music. So I want to remember the if for the interested to check out the Samatva Foundation page. Maybe do you want to tell something about? There is a series that is going to start next week. Is it?
Yes, Umar. Thanks for reminding that. So, what I have been seeing is there is a lot of information which is there, and there's a lot of people who are also interested to learn and understand the concepts of Carnatic music and rhythm in particular, right? So, I was seeing like how do we build awareness on this, right? So, how do we build a taste for understanding, a taste for enjoying the rhythm, the Carnatic rhythm, whatever we have, kind of a thing. So, as you know, there are a lot of concepts that are there. There are a lot of elements which are there. Not just talking about a percussion point of view, from a laya or a rhythm point of view, which is there inherently in the compositions. It could be trinity compositions or post-trinity compositions, or it could be melodic, or it could be part of improvisations, or it could be part of the rhythmical structures which we do. I mean, n number of things, right? So what we thought is, I think it'll be good to have some kind of a documented material regarding this, and through our foundation. And we are basically starting off. We are launching this in a couple of days' time now, and we are intending to have every fortnightly one episode which dives deep into a particular concept and tries to explore and explain the concept to the entire world, right? So I mean, we are planning to have 24 to 25 episodes, starting off from January and going on till the next year, January. So that's the thought. And we are extremely grateful for all the great legends of music who are coming together in this initiative, and they are helping us out in doing one topic each, kind of a thing. And they're also talking about what actually goes into that particular topic and a concept. So that's the thought process, and we are going to bring it to you all, and it will be there in the Samatva Foundation's YouTube channel. If you've not subscribed, I'm using this opportunity to advertise that as well. It is www.youtube.com/Samatva Foundation. Please go and subscribe for it, and we will have a great journey together with Laya.
Yeah, I'm sure this will be super interesting with all these wonderful musicians coming together. So please check this out.
Yeah,
and
we have named this series as called Laya Swada. Aswada basically is the taste in our local language, and it's basically taste of rhythm. So we want to give the taste of rhythm of Carnatic rhythm to everybody, and whosoever is interested can definitely explore more. It gives us an opportunity to understand, okay, what it is, kind of a thing. And all Laya enthusiasts and whosoever wants to learn a little more about what they have understanding on to advance to the next level, they are really benefited with this.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks. So I thank you again, Guru Prasanna, and thank all the persons who joined us tonight. And I remember that on the 17th next week, on Sunday, there will be Vidusha Sukanya Ramgopal with this series, so please do join. She's one of the most important and wonderful percussionists, I think, in the world. And please do join. And thank you again for being here. Thanks, Guru Prasanna.
Thanks a lot, Umar and Konnakkol Italia for inviting me. And it was a great interactive session and to talk about something which is close to my heart, Laya. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. It was a pleasure. So, bye and see you next week, everyone. Thanks.